Now it's time to start looking at some equations that are a little trickier. We're going to put together all the things you've been reviewing and see what happens. Combining like terms. This happens through all the years that you'll take math, so it's a good skill to remember. So for example, if I take 6x plus 4 minus 2x plus 9, I can make this shorter, or I can simplify it. So one of the things you might do is find the pieces that look alike. Both of these terms have the variable x, so I'm going to put them together. The 4 and the 9 are both constants, so we'll combine them. Finally, just do the arithmetic. We've got 6x minus 2x plus 4 plus 9. These two will become 4x. Those two will become positive 13. And now you're done. Distributive property, again, something that you use even into the upper levels of math, such as calculus. So let's start with negative 3 times y plus 5. The number that's on the outside gets multiplied to everything that's in the inside. So I'm going to take negative 3 times y and negative 3 times 5, remembering that I want the negative and the 3. So what I would get here is negative 3y, and then negative 3 times positive 5 would be like saying plus negative 15. And that's your distributive property. Finally, reviewing one-step equations. If I have 4 plus w equals 9, some people like to draw a line here just so they remember that there's two sides to this and we need to keep the sides balanced. What we want to do is an inverse operation. Since this is a positive 4, we are going to do the opposite, or inverse, and subtract 4 on both sides. When I do that, I end up with w equals 5. And that would be where we've got a simple one-step equation. New learning. Now we're going to put it all together. In this first example, I'm going to use the distributive property within an equation. So I have 3 times x plus 2 equals 15. First thing I need to do is get rid of parentheses. That's one of the things we almost always do first. So remember 3 times x and 3 times 2 to get 3x plus 2 equals 15. Now I need to get rid of the constant. So to get rid of the constant, I will subtract 2 on both sides, and I am left with 3x equals 13. Oops, mistake on my part. Hang on, let me erase. I made a mistake in my own writing. 3 times 2 would give me a 6 here. So now I want to subtract 6 on both sides and end up with 3x equals 9. This piece says 3 times x, so I want to divide by 3, which is the inverse of multiplication, and we will end up with, over here, x equals 3. Let's try one more. 72 equals 9 times y minus 4. Once again, get rid of parentheses first by doing that multiplication. So 72 will equal 9y minus 9 times 4 is 36. Now we're going to do the inverse of subtraction, which would be addition. And while you're doing this, if it helps to use two colors, go ahead and do it. So over here I get 108 would equal 9y. The inverse of multiplication is division. So now I will end up with 12 equals y. Now you'll practice. Sometimes we'll have to combine like terms within an equation and do distributive property. So negative 2 times x plus 6 plus 4x equals 24. First, get rid of parentheses by using distributive property. So negative 2x minus 12 plus 4x equals 24. Now I notice these two terms both have the variable x, so I'm going to combine like terms. So 2x minus 12 equals 24. Now we've got to work with the inverse of a subtraction, which would let us add 12 to both sides. So 2x equals 36. 2 times x means divide by 2, and we get x equals 18. Finally for today, what happens when I've got variables on both sides? It just requires a little manipulation, kind of like a puzzle. So if I have 3x plus 2 equals 5x minus 4. First I want to think about that wall. I need to get the x terms on one side and the constants on the other. I like my variables on the left, but it's up to you. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this 5x. Since it is a positive 5x, I will subtract 5x. Notice how I lined my x's up. On this side, I now have negative 2x plus 2 equals negative 4. Now I need to move that constant term. Inverse of positive 2 would be a negative 2. So now I have negative 2x equals negative 6. And since that is negative 2 times x, I'm going to divide by negative 2 on both sides, and I will have x equals positive 3. Let's try one more of those. Negative 4 plus 7y is equal to 9y minus 5. Again, I prefer my variable terms on the left, but that's totally up to you. So I'm going to move my 9y over as a minus 9y. I'm also going to go ahead and draw that wall, because that's helpful sometimes. So now negative 4 minus 2y equals negative 5. Moving my constant term, I'm going to add 4. So I've got negative 2y equals negative 1. Inverse says divide by negative 2. So y will equal 1/2, or if you've used a calculator, possibly 0.5. Now I want you to try for a little bit of practice. As you work through these today, take your time. Usually do distributive property first, combining like terms second, and save the solving for last.